Hi, I'm Elan Cadiz, and I am a native New Yorker and visual artist. I'm also the creator of the Scaffold Equity of Treatment Project, also known as the Scaffold Project.
So how did you get into art? Was this like an early thing with you, like when you was in childhood? Was this always part of what you was into?
Yeah, it's definitely something I did when I was younger. My father's an artist, my mother's a writer and artist, so I've always had access.
And your parents, did they have any particular projects, or was this like a hobby? Did they try and make this a professional thing with them by any chance?
Well, my father wanted to be a professional artist, and he was, and he still practices photography, but it was quite tricky, especially during the 70s and 80s as a Puerto Rican artist to make money and find gallery representation. So he was kind of left out of that narrative, but he always painted and did collage, and that's what he taught me, painting and collage.
Okay. And your mom, you said she's a writer?
Yeah, so my mother is an educator, and she was a teacher, and she enjoys writing poetry as well as articles for newspaper, a community newspaper. So that access always gave me practice. Like, poetry was a big part of our lives.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What part of New York did you grow up in?
Astoria, Queens.
Nice.
Yes, Long Island City.
Nice.
Yes.
Because you currently kind of associated with Harlem. So how did
Yeah.
that transaction happen? Did you recently move to Harlem, or was that something that took place over like a long time?
So Harlem has been the second place I've lived in New York City. So from Astoria, my parents' home, to my then fiance and then husband, I got married in 2000, and he lived in Harlem, and I moved in with him. And that's where we raised our family for 20 years. Since then, I have become divorced, but we still co-parent, and I still live in Harlem, and our children have been born and raised here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. How has Harlem been for your art, like as far as for helping for inspiration or anything like that? Because there's so many things tied here.
Oh, it's still, even though I grew up in Astoria, I feel like my second time I grew up was here in Harlem. Astoria is a beautifully diverse space, but when I grew up there, it kind of like isolated brown and black people to certain areas.
Right.
And it's quite a lot of segregation, so you had, different groups kind of hold certain places down. And I didn't see a diverse of black people doing different things, living in different spaces and what have you. But when I moved here to Harlem, it just gave me so much access to different communities that really inspired and taught me things about the culture and about the city and about just being a citizen here. It's been a very inspiring time living in Harlem for these 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you take classes as far as for art when you was like maybe in elementary? Did it go as far back as that?
Well, no, because my parents gave me access. They were my first teachers. So up until, I would say, high school, when I went to a specialized high school, art and design high school, it was an experience. That's all I'm going to say about that. It didn't discourage me from continuing. I did get accepted to FIT.
Okay.
And that's the Fashion Institute of Technology. But I think I was not ready for school when I did get accepted. And I was there for about a year or two. Before I kind of like quit and gave up on that, because I first went in for advertising and design.
Right.
And then took marketing classes, but realized I did not want to do that. That did not feed my soul, and it felt like a very evil thing to teach people or try to trick people to buy things they don't need.
Right.
So I didn't want to invest energy and time in that. And it was because of my then husband, who he was going back to school. It encouraged me to return to school. So we both went to City College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I took studio art and art education as subjects. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I noticed that your online name is Elan HiArt. How did you come up with the HiArt? Like, what made you come up with your hip hop rap name, kind of?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a rapper. Oh my gosh, I always wanted to be a rapper. So it was always this balance I was trying to maintain of who I am and what's most important to me. And what was consistent was making art. So HiArt was HiArt, like hi, it's art. Like it's really just to be so basic and to be like, hi, it's art, hi. To take the fear out of it, because that was another thing I was dealing with. Being a woman that was a mother, a wife, or this or that and other, I didn't feel sophisticated. Like you see, like artist talks are very sophisticated, and how do I fit in within the art canon and da 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 da. And it can often make people feel separate from it, as if it's so complicated I cannot understand it.
Right.
But it's not that complicated. So that was my way of introducing my world of understanding of art to the world.
Oh, okay. That's fantastic story. Wow. I love that. I never got it because I saw HiArt, but I never thought about hi. It's art. That's freaking brilliant. Truth be told, that's freaking brilliant. What was the first piece that you painted and you knew that this was something that you wanted to pursue?
Birth of a Nation. So Birth of a Nation was a movie made by the KKK.
Right.
And
first movie in color, got a bunch of people in hoods chasing around a guy in blackface, saying that they're going to rape all the women and everything. And the KKK is the heroes.
Yes, in fear of, like after the Civil War, that all these black people are going to be free. We got to control their behavior because we don't want them free. So I think moving to Harlem, I saw this building of condos and things. And but I also knew how people who were like poor were dealing with such things like asbestos, mold, fire hazards in their buildings, their pre-war buildings, and all these other things. And I was getting so upset. I realized money was what they cared about. It wasn't about the community. They weren't beautifying the community for the people. So in that time, I kept thinking about that movie, and I had a dream that the painting was in, and it was in pieces. From all these different visions I had, I sketched out this painting and I made it. And it was like the largest painting at that time that I ever did. It was like 3 feet by 4 feet or something like that. And it took me a month to make because of all the interruptions I had to life, kids and school and work. And that was the first time I realized, like, I'm an artist, like, regardless of who acknowledges me or if I acknowledge it. Because when I was done with it, I just felt like it was such a necessary thing that had to be seen and done.
This Scaffold Project right now that you have, it's a very big thing that you're doing. I'm glad to be part of it myself.
I'm so glad you're a part of it.
How did the whole concept for that come about? Like, what set you down the path for that?
Yeah, so it, like everyone else last year, quarantine threw us all off. I had finally in my life gotten jobs that I was doing steadily and being able to get paid and pay my bills on time and everything. Everybody was happy. And also it was like, oh, fired, laid off, and you got to figure it out, because I've been an art educator now for 20 years, because I started in 2000 teaching. And then I was now faced with the idea like, oh, you can't do that now because we can't do events, we can't be around each other, and all these, restrictions and rules. And so I just decided to focus on what brings me peace, what makes me feel complete. And that was art, right? Because that's what I've been taught. So I need to do something that'll keep me busy so I don't think about what's going on. So I started to think about the people I know, because I'm technically, even though I can be outgoing and talk to folks, I am introverted. I don't like going to openings. I don't like crowds. Because of those things, I kind of don't always feel connected to the art community. And I wanted to kind of really think about what that meant for me. And so this project kind of grew out of that. And it's this idea of acknowledging people for what they bring and what is positive in them. I think the concept of social capital explains this best, where you're making these connections with people, and it's not so much about money, but it's about the connections you make with people. And I started to ask friends, family, if they would want to participate. And what that took was them to submit a photo, 2 or 3 photos of themselves, just so that I can pick the best one, paint it, and build scaffold around them. And now the scaffold, it comes from an educational term, because my son at one time, he had an IEP, individual educational plan, to assist him with his speech, because he had delayed speech. And so in it, they pretty much designed an educational plan for him and his needs, which included like smaller classes and specialists. And I thought, like, this is amazing. What if we all had that individual support that was catered to the needs that we have, that can support the places that we are weak? And so that's the basis of the Scaffold Project. It's this idea that we know, any individual knows so many people with good skills who are doing amazing things or just living their truest life. And I feel like if we focus on those best qualities and give people avenues to express those things, we would do so much better than focusing on the worst and waiting for bad. It really was my way of connecting too to people I care about, and just, how are you? How's everything? Is everything okay? And you know, so it was that too. It was like a fun way of connecting to people again, and saying, you know, I loved working with you then. I would love to highlight you and hold you up. It's not so much about the product, but it's the feeling I got when I was able to share it with someone. So now it's like I had all these portraits to share, and all these beautiful people to share, and it just gave me an excitement. Yeah.
So I've seen you put it in a couple of different galleries all around New York and other places. Like, how did that start? How did that come about?
So between the use of social media and social capital, I was able to bring a lot of attention to the project. And I was contacted by Mary Birmingham, the curator at the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey. And I've worked with her before, and she's also a participant of the Scaffold Project. Yes, I asked her after the exhibition if she could be a part of it. And I also had exhibited at Adelphi University, Jonathan Duff. He is the curator of that space, and he actually met me I think in 2018 or 17, when I exhibited at Gallery 8 on Frederick Douglass, which is sadly not there anymore, due to, I believe, COVID and all the stuff that's happening. So
what's the next place that's going to be displayed, where you're going to be at? What's the next lineup?
Oh, this is the exciting part. So the next lineup is the Kente Royal Gallery.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and Mr. Doji, the owner, has so kindly allowed me to be in the space from May 2nd to May 30th.
Oh, nice.
And that's right in Harlem. So it's such a perfect location. And that will display over 150 all of the Scaffold Project portraits.
Wow. How many Scaffold Project portraits are there? I didn't know it was that large. You just
I tell you, I'm the absolute worst. So I've been trying to do the math, right? Because and people kept thinking, like, you're never gonna be done with this. You're never gonna be done with this. Because I keep asking people, and I had to like really just tell myself, stop. The idea is not that that I should make a lot of portraits, right, to sell, because I think that's the usual idea of art. Right? You make it because you want someone to buy it.
Right.
But it was actually under the conditions that the portrait, if not sold, it goes to the person in the portrait, because technically I feel like it's theirs. In case they do get sold, the portions of those monies are divided between the owner of the space, myself, and the person in the portrait.
Oh, okay.
So, and all, like, so everyone had to get a cut. And that was very important to me as well because of our image. How often in our history that Black and brown people have been, their identities or their image has been used without compensation.
Very much.
You know, very much, right? Like we suffer in that where we're not paid the same and we're not given enough credit. So in this, they had to get money because you allowed me to use your image. You allowed me to share your name, your information. You deserve a cut,
Right.
you know? So that was a very important part of the project as well. One, money was not important, but if it came into the factor, then everyone had to get paid.
I get you.
So, and those are the terms of it, which have been tricky because again, we're in a system where it's about the art, the product, you sell the product, and usually, you know, it's all this kinds of, negotiation, but it's really about the people.
Right.
Who are these people? What are they bringing to the table? And who do you know that reminds you of these people?
Right.
You know, like we all have folks in our lives that bring something to the table. Yeah, let's acknowledge it and value it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.